heard plenty about the damage the British East India Company had wrought down south. She made the most of the reduced supervision and would often steal away and linger on the bridge overlooking the dock, watching the ships go by, clad in her plainest clothes and the sludge-brown cloak that Meena had lifted a while back from her handmaid Binita when she wasn't looking. She would scuttle through the palace, having feigned melancholy or headache that would naturally leave her bedbound, and then out the kitchen back door she would sneak. She hoped that she looked insignificant enough to those that cared to look, perhaps a servant girl dawdling on her way back from the market. Meena drew her veil closer as it flickered in the breeze, briefly exposing her as she watched the rush of men piling in and out of their boats. The docks were always chaotic. She grabbed absent-mindedly at the tiny shoots of grass growing in between the cracks of the bridge's stone slabs as she stood transfixed, watching the ships glide through the waves. The thin, straggly weeds bent under the force of her grasp. Men from all corners of the world disembarked the ships with a similar ebb and flow. Some were truly just boys, even younger than Meena, walking with false swagger, a rehearsed ease in the swing of their limbs. The older ones looked around, trying to spot the nearest tavern or brothel from the dock itself. The officious ones were the worst, looking for their welcome party while covering their faces with their jackets for fear of polluting their pale bodies with the exotic, offensive smells and sights around them. The British ones in their red coats were scarce since her father took the city back, but Calcutta was full of others. Those who made the long, uncertain journey from France and the Dutch Republic and Portugal to make their fortune. War might rage on, but in the midst of death and destruction there was still money to be made, perhaps even more so. Not that she had ever been in their shoes. She couldn't imagine what travelling across the world to new lands would be like. Aside from those trips to the coast with her aunt, she had barely left their palace in Murshidabad before they came to Calcutta. There were apparently some upsides to her father going to war with one of Bengal's biggest trading partners. Meena was relieved when she was informed that her father would be leaving Murshidabad to keep a closer eye on the East India Company after he took back Calcutta from them. That is, of course, until she realised that the family was expected to follow. War was no place for women, but as the daughter of his first wife, there was no way Meena's father would risk leaving her or her older brother behind in Bengal's seat of power with the rest of the household. Generations of palace machinations and suspicious deaths in their family had put paid to such ideas. And so here they were, stationed in their rather humble home in Calcutta, away from her childhood home, with nothing to do but while away her afternoons watching the feverish activity of her fellow new arrivals. The French, the Portuguese, the Dutch would all emerge from their ships, overwhelmed by the new surroundings, looking for any small, familiar comfort to soften the shock. Meena peered closer. As among the usual crowd of Europeans, she thought she saw a British insignia on one of the ships, next to the word Argo emblazoned on its side. The Englishman that first disembarked lacked both the others' restlessness and the pressed and proper attire of the officious. He was free from the stiffness of their collars, his rolled-up shirt-sleeves worn and previously patched. His jodhpurs were oil-stained from shipwork. He seemed light, carefree, certainly, but also as if he were lit from within, glowing. Meena watched intently as a tanned, hairy arm was slung across his shoulders, belonging to one of his squat friends. The crew he was with certainly shared his more casual demeanour, if not the elegant.